Good evening, Facebook Nation, and welcome to yet another episode of Did You Hire Them Dead or Kill Them After You Got Them? I'm your host, Anthony Santangelo, National Sales Recruiter and Trainer for Automax Recruiting and Training. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here, episode number 42 we have with it. So as you see, I have Velko already on. I didn't put him on right away here. But before we get to Velko, I just wanted to say this one thing here, if you don't mind. Facebook Nation, thank you to everybody that reached out to me from my scare that I had Sunday evening. For those that don't know, I had some chest pains and they did roll out. It was not a heart attack, even though when I went to the ER, there was 3 or 4 symptoms I had. They thought I was having a heart attack, but I did not. There was not blood clots, so we'll see what it is. But the good thing is it wasn't those 2 big things. So I'm still here. I'm still ticking, which is a good thing. Still a little bit of pain, but I'm here and I'm all in with you guys. So thank you so much, especially to Lisa Copeland, who is definitely the president of our tribe. Thank you, Lisa. And everybody that reached out, I had so many private messages and phone calls and texts. Thank you. I'm just very appreciative of it. So, but this show is not about me. I just want, but so let's move right into our awesome, amazing guest here, Velko. So, Velko, thank you so much for being here, my friend. I know you've had a crazy day yourself, and you're a little under the weather, and you're all in yourself. You got a soccer game that you play tonight and everything. You've been running and everything. So, let's get neck deep into it here. There we go. I was just making sure that we have everybody on here and make sure I saw some guests there. Hey, Dominic, how are you? Yes, I am still alive, Dominic. So hit the share button, please, for me. I'd appreciate it, Facebook Nation. I really do on it. So let's get deep here into my friend Velko. Velko, first and foremost, thank you so much again for taking the time to do this. I know you're used to being on this side, being the interviewer, not the interviewee, with your show as well that I've been a guest on. And I had the privilege and honor to meet you in Las Vegas at the Rockstar Unconference event in May, which was exciting that we both shared the stage, which was really awesome. So it's good stuff. So let me just take 1 second here, and you already shared it out. I'm going to share it out as well. And why don't you get us started into the real life of Velko that started out as a young man? Where were you born? And let's go from there, my friend.
Well, I just wanted to share how thankful I am for being on your show, and how thankful I am that you are still alive and you're still all in. You kind of scared us with your post a couple of days ago, and Lisa, the leader that she is, was able to gather everybody to pray for you, and we all prayed, and obviously it worked. So you're
still here. So that's a good thing, I guess. So depending on who you ask, So I even had some of my people that are not in my tribe reach out that I know I'm not their favorite person, and they still reached out to me, which I was very grateful for that too. So
you're a lot of people's favorite person. You get a lot of love.
Well, I really couldn't believe how much love I had. It was truly remarkable, and I'm very grateful of it. So, but we're not here to talk about me though, buddy. So let's talk about you. So let's start out. I got it all shared out here. Hit the share button, guys, for Velko. Let's give him some love. He's always out there. He's giving nonstop as well as he travels and does training and everything. So, but let's start out that little boy. Where were you born? And let's go from there, my friend.
Yeah. So as you can tell, my accent is European. So I was born in Eastern Europe. I was born in Bulgaria, and I grew up there. I moved to the United States when I was 18. So it's been can do the math, 16, more than that, 16, 17 years. So I wanted to become a lawyer. Obviously, the cultural beliefs in Europe are very similar to, Indians or Asians. Your parents have to be satisfied with your profession. So very few kids pick their profession, right? So I wanted to become a soccer player. That was my first dream, and then I dropped that idea fast. Then I wanted to become an actor, and in Bulgaria, that's not a very good paying job. So my parents took me out of it. And my third choice was to become a lawyer. So I liked that idea. They supported it as well. So I almost became a lawyer. And Bulgaria is a small country, um, but very corrupt, kind of like Illinois.
Mhm. Chicago, right?
Yeah. So I was very disappointed because I really wanted to become a great lawyer, and there was just so much corruption involved. It was a different system, so I decided to leave, and I came to the States. And initially, I wanted to become an international lawyer, and I wanted to study law here. But once when I realized that I don't like the environment of the courtroom as much, I don't like rules. I don't like uh, you know I don't like specific rituals and things like that. So I decided to jump in sales. And my first sales job, I was a bartender for a long time and a waiter. Actually, if you want to know my entire story from when I got to United States, my first job, I was a plunger boy. And do you know what a plunger is?
I do. I do know what I do this, yeah.
So my first job was at a motel in upstate New York and Lake George. And I was a plunger boy. So I did a really good job doing that. And they promoted me to the garbage boy. So now I was in charge of garbage cans throughout the entire property. There was 18 garbage cans. So by the time I collect all of those and bring them to the big dumpster, they were filled again. So I had to do this all day long, and I did a phenomenal job doing that. So they promoted me to be a housekeeper, but I wasn't very proud of that because mostly girls were doing this job. So I wanted to transition quickly into maintenance guy when I can actually use a screwdriver and fix things and get access to driving the truck, right? So then I became a maintenance guy, and then I got a second job as a dishwasher, and I did a really good job as a dishwasher. So then I became a busboy. They said you're very good looking. We need to let you in front of people. So I became a busboy, and then I was a banquet setter, and then a waiter, and then a bartender. And when I was a bartender, I kind of uh, started falling in love into the people's business, and there was many of my clients who suggested that I should get into sales because I wasn't your typical bartender. My goal was to get 20% of the amount of the bill that we generate together, and I was working for tips, right? So the more I drive the bill up, the more money I'm gonna make, and I was very good at entertaining them and making them spend money. So they said you should be a salesman. So I said, okay, great. I want to be a salesman. And I started selling life insurance. And I was 21 at the time. I didn't really enjoy, actually, it was 19, 20 at the time. I didn't really enjoy talking about life insurance. When you're 20 years old, you don't think about death. You're creating the urgency. It's kind of weird, and closing deals on the kitchen table. I didn't enjoy soliciting others, right? So then I knew I'm in love with sales, and I decided to get into car sales. Actually, I bought my first brand new car, and I had just read one of the most fundamental books in my life, which I recommend to every single person, Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
So, in Think and Grow Rich, the suggestion for growth is to buy something that you absolutely love and to work like hell not to lose it, right? That's what I did. While I was still a bartender, I bought this brand new Mustang, and the person who sold it to me was not was the top salesman, but I was not very impressed. Like I literally had to sell myself. So the guy said I bought a base model Mustang stick shift, obviously, and he said, they don't have much horsepower. So I was like, well, they do have a great amount of torque, so I think I'll be satisfied. So he kept talking me out of it, and I kept talking myself into it. I'm like, this guy sucks. I'm gonna do a much better job if I become one of these salespeople. So then I started looking for a job in sales, and I had a similar story like you because I had a heavy accent at the time, no experience, and I got rejected maybe from 13 or 14 dealerships. I literally used to spend my days filling out applications and following up with dealers and asking if they would give me a chance. And I was willing to work for free until I earned, the right to be a salesman. And one dealer that had just moved and from Michigan, they just opened their first dealership from Michigan, the Ziegler organization. That was their first dealership. They were hiring people without experience, and that was the biggest blessing, right? So they invited me to interview, and I showed up with what I thought was a business casual outfit. So I had this Eniche shirt, if you remember those, and then my best jeans. And I showed up like that. The manager said, "You're underdressed. You can't sell cars like that. Get out of here." So my dream was almost dead. Like, here's a dealership that wants to hire me, and I ruined it because I didn't own a suit. So then I had $302 in my account, and I went back to the dream was dead. I went back to try to find a job at a restaurant, and during my interview, just before I accept the job, this guy from the dealer called me again and said, "Hey, you still want to sell cars?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, show up again on interview, this time dress sharp." So I had $302. I went to a store. I bought a three-piece suit. I bought shoes, and I literally had 75 cents left and one tie and two shirts. So I went all in. So I'm walking in the dealership, and the guy says, "Oh, you're too overdressed. Get out of here." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." He goes, "No, I'm just joking." So he says, "How many, obviously you have a heavy accent. How many languages do you speak?" And I say, "Oh, I speak several languages, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "You're hired." So that's how I started selling cars. To me, selling cars was my dream job. I felt very fortunate being able to wear a suit every day, being able to be somebody, um, you know, and I approached this job as my career, as my profession. I wanted to become the best from the first day. It took me 6 months to learn the business and to become the number one salesperson. And after that, for 68 months in a row, I was number one. So once when I got the belt, I was kind of like Floyd Mayweather. I didn't want to give it up. It was my desire and my mission to be the number one salesperson every month. I'm a typical example of top producer, and that's what I did for until the beginning of 2015. January 2015 was my last month selling cars, and then I started my company, Velko Academy. We focus on sales skills, marketing skills, and life skills. We help salespeople go beyond their potential and build a strong book of business. So that's my story short.
Well, let's go through that. That's awesome there, my friend. So let's kind of put the fishing rod out and kind of wheel it in a little bit here. So when you first moved to this country, New York is where you came. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, first I came to New York City. It was I lived in for a little bit there, and then I went to upstate New York, and I stayed there for about a year, and then I moved to Florida. So I lived in Florida. I lived in between Naples and Fort Myers in a beautiful town called Bonita Springs. And I worked there as a bartender and as a waiter. And then I moved to Chicago shortly after, like a year and a half after that. So I've lived in 3 states.
okay, awesome.
And I've lived in Chicago for like 15 years now.
So you started out, as you said, a plunger boy, and you moved up to dishwasher, housekeeping, maintenance guy. When you said maintenance guy, I right away go back to a show when I was a kid called One Day at a Time, and the maintenance guy was named Schneider, and he had a little cheesy mustache he had. So that's the first thing I thought of that. It came out in the '70s. That show, if you want to Google it later, if you have a chance. Some of the older folk on here remember that show. So you went through that, and you worked your way up. You were a white collar guy in blue collar clothes, so you're kind of the opposite, where you worked your way up through that, and you kind of always wanted to better yourself. You said you were born in Bulgaria. Now, my geography is not the best. Is Bulgaria near Albania? Is that in the same area? Or
Yeah, it's very close to exit 71 if you go north from where you at. So a lot of people,
I was waiting for the punchline. I knew you were going with that.
no, but yeah, it is close to Albania. It's north of Greece and south of Romania and west of Turkey.
Okay.
So it's between Romania, Turkey, and Greece. And Bulgaria used to be the largest country in Europe. So it's the oldest country in Europe, over 13 centuries, and it's full of culture. Um, One of the fun facts about Bulgaria is that they've never lost a battle, but they've lost a lot of wars. So little hard-headed, right? So they don't keep eye on the big picture. So they're very, very, very reactive. You know what I mean? And Bulgaria has been under the Ottoman Empire slavery for 500 years. So it's kind of like the besides the it's the longest slavery in history. And then 200 years under the Greeks. So out of 1,300 years, 700 years they've been under slavery, but they were still able to protect the traditions and the culture. One of the most beautiful destinations for travel right now is Bulgaria and Greece. They're right next to each other. So a lot of people go to Bulgaria. It's actually a little bit more expensive than Greece and Croatia. All these countries are around the same area there. So
The reason why I ask is I worked with a young man back in 2003. His name was Genti, and he was from Albania. And the dealership I was working at gave him a shot as an 18-year-old kid. And he spoke Albanian, and he spoke Italian, and he spoke Croatian, I think, as well, if I remember correctly. So, but you have a similar accent to Genti. He's probably about your age, I think. So. But yeah, so it's a little bit of experience, working with some of this a similar culture that way. So you tried to get in the car industry, and you said a couple of different things. So obviously, you came in with what you thought was your Sunday best, and they sent you home. They rejected you with it. So I mean, I'm not going to interview you because you didn't look the part, so to speak, which is interesting because people today, obviously, you know what I do, and I would say maybe 20%, 15%. They don't look the full part, but we still give them a chance and talk to
yeah,
them, which is important. I interviewed somebody in Tennessee last month in a dirty T-shirt and jeans from his blue-collar job. I loved him, invited him to training, and the dealership hired him. So I mean, so things happen that way. So you felt rejected, and then you went and you invested in yourself. And you basically went broke. 71 cents, I think you said you had left. $302. You spent $301.29. 2 shirts, a tie, dress shoes, pants, a jacket. And then you come in, and all of a sudden you're overdressed for the part, and they threw you out. What was going through your mind there? You're come to this country, you're working hard, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to better yourself. And now these things happen. Like, how did you get through that, Velko?
so I've always stayed positive. So it was always a step forward. It was always I always looked at my life as a stairway, right? So if you see my social security letter, every year I double my income, right? Every year from job to job to job, I work, I grow, right? So my life is there's two things about my life that kind of lead the direction, and it's always about momentum growth. If I don't have momentum, I can't grow, and if I don't grow, I don't feel good, right? So one of my biggest challenges right now is entrepreneurship, because you go up and down, and in sales, I never had that situation where I would go up and down. It was a straight line, and it was straight up. So I always improved, but with entrepreneurship, you have to learn so many things. Like, it's not good enough to be a great salesman. You have to be a good marketer. You have to be a good accountant. So for me, it wasn't a challenge so much the rejection that they didn't that they played games with me, right? my accent. Chicks love my accent, so I'll never give up on my accent. Plus, it suggests that I speak other languages, and that's what made me attractive at the dealership. I think the only reason why they hired me is because I spoke a different language, and it was a lot of Europeans that live in that area, and I didn't really see it that bad. I knew I was closer when they rejected me the second time for being overdressed, and then they gave me a chance. But once when I was in, I wasn't gonna lose, right? So I remember I was a perfect example of the 90-day phenomenon, and you probably see that with some of your students. Um, Great first 90 days. I think I had 8 cars the first month, 12 cars the second month, and the third month was like 3 cars, and it was already the 27th, so I was already falling. And I haven't sold any of these cars. All of them were like TOs where I have no idea what's going on. So I believe I sold my first car after 90 days when it was just me and the used car manager, and I was selling a $5,000 Honda to a very tough gentleman, and he told me go and fight for the deal. And I was, I was broke at this time, and I only had 3 units, and I ended up fighting for the deal with whatever I found as a tool. I got creative, and it wasn't a word track. I was just being very direct with the buyer. That was the first time when I sold a car on my own. So at this point, I realized that I need to learn this business. That it's not as easy as what everybody else make it sound. So I went to my boss and I said, I need some training. And that's after 90 days being employed there, right? And I said, I need some training. I'm desperate for some training. So he dusted off some books he gave me, and he signed me up for Joe Verdi virtual training platform, right? And that was back in 2006, 2007. So that's when the car business started to go down. That was before the recession. Before then, we used to approve people based on pulse. So if they're breathing, they can get a car loan. And then we had the big recession with the big three and cash for clinics. If you remember, that was in 2010. But in 2007, 2008, things started to go south in the car business, and they started to go really well in the real estate. So a lot of people left the car business and went to real estate. So I finished Joe Verdi training, which was a 3-month program. I finished it in literally 4 days. I finished the product knowledge training in 3 or 4 days, and I started selling cars. And it took me. I started to compete. I'm a very competitive guy, so I started to compete with the guy. I was at the bottom, so I didn't like the fact that I was the last on the board. I started to compete with the guy in front of me. Then I started to compete with the guy above him, and then in 6 months, I ended up conquering the #1 spot. And the only recognition they gave, it wasn't any cash bonus or anything like that. For #1, you can choose your demo. You can drive any used car. So it must have been 2006, because I remember Obama, he was from Illinois, so I knew who he was before he became a president. He drove a 300C. That was like the hottest car back then. And I requested one of those for a demo. And I took my girlfriend downtown Chicago, and I felt like $1,000,000. To me, that was the biggest reward. So I was like, I will never give up the opportunity to pick my own car and to drive different cars. I used to joke around that I was a man of one woman and many cars. Now it's the opposite. I have fewer cars. But anyways, I love the car business, man. I love the car business, and the car business made me feel like somebody. It allowed me to feel good and to grow in industry, and just the people in the car business are the most beautiful people, the most entertaining people, the smartest people. I've met so many great people through the car business. It's absolutely amazing, the creativity and the colorfulness of people in our industry, and how united we are. I don't think there's any other industry. I don't think in real estate or other businesses they're as united as we are. We go through. That's why I was worried about you, and like we had in our previous conversation, like we talked about it. With the amount of stress we go through, heart attack is one of the most common things that we were expecting. But we also have a lot of fun. And I was in an environment where I really enjoyed selling cars. I worked with some really funny people, and that's what I want to bring back to the industry. Let's have fun. Funny equals money, right? Entertainment is where people spend the most money in today's world.
Absolutely. You said a lot of great nuggets there. One of the things when you said about the cars and women, my late friend Tom Dara would have said to you that you're the men's fret and the women's pet. He would say that's what he would have called you in that case there on it. So, but it's interesting because a lot of times, and this could be a cultural thing a little bit. My favorite manager ever, his name is Mohammed Laraki, and he's from Morocco. He speaks Arabic, French, and English fluently, sometimes all in the same sentence. And I didn't meet Mo until 2007. So I was already 10 years in the business, and I was cocky and arrogant, thought I knew it all, blah, blah, blah. And Mo taught me, relax, Bati Bati, don't you worry, Poppy. And I really didn't grasp that until later in my career, really as a trainer, really late in my career selling cars and as a trainer, that sometimes we lose that focus for those of us in the United States, where we need to learn that from the different cultures, those that were born elsewhere, to loosen up and have some fun. And it's important because we stress so much on the numbers and the results and the money and the rejection and the competition, and we're proud and all that. But sometimes the best way to sell cars is just to kind of be you and just relax. And to go back to your point, you said the first 3 months, every deal that you did, you didn't close yourself. So you weren't pitching all 9 innings of the game, to use the baseball term. You were getting a TO. And for those that are on here that aren't in the car industry, TO stands for turnover. That you turn it over and your manager talks to them. Your manager doesn't take the sale. He just closes it for you. And it's still your sale. And then you had the used car opportunity where the used car manager pretty much stood you up and said, yo, dude, go out there and close it yourself with the customer. And the switch kind of flipped at that point where you closed your own deal. I'm sure you felt very proud and accomplished of that, as you should have, especially in a difficult month where you only had 3 deals out. And I had a similar story where my 5th full month in the car industry, I sold 2.5 cars on 41 ups. And I thought, sure, I was getting fired. And thank God Brian Anderson, Terry Biaggi did not fire me. They trained me, So sometimes you can go backwards a little bit where you have to take that time. And you took that, and then you had the pride of getting your own demo, which obviously I had demos my first 10 years of doing this. It's an awesome thing. You pick your own car, wonderful, great, all that. And you didn't want to relinquish that. So you had the championship belt that you had for 68 months, which is awesome.
If we take a Ferrari on trade, I put my plates on it. As soon as we get, I used to buy trades. I used to push the dealer to buy trades that I wanted to drive. That was my drug.
That's always exciting. So during this time when you were the heavyweight champion for 5 years and 8 months straight, 68 months, how did your peers relate to you? And then how did you relate back to them when they treated you good and not so good?
Yeah, so I was on my 3rd year, I started to work by repeats and referrals only. So I really, really focused my time, and I tried to be with a client every time, for every minute I'm at the dealership. So I started to work by appointments only. I was fortunate enough to sell 40 cars a month, working only 4 days a week, 100% with repeats and referrals. And I did a lot of marketing back then. Like in 2008, I started adding people on Facebook and do all these Facebook videos, testimonials, and the pictures. So a lot of my peers were laughing at me in the beginning. They were like, "Hey," including the management team. They were like, "Why are you taking a video of your customer? Like, why are you taking a picture? What do you do with these pictures? You put them in your house? Like, what?" And you gotta understand, Chicago people here, Chicago guys, Chicago salesmen, they feel more like gangsters. It's more like they're all finance guys. They're not these helpful professionals. Nobody take pride at being a servant. Everybody feels that being a salesperson is you're the boss and you got to trick people and things like that. So anything that could potentially show some type of attention to the client, was a turn off to those old school guys, right? So I would do these long deliveries. I would do these testimonials. I would put things on their car, like the ball. I would buy flowers for the women. So I had this all planned out about their experience. And um, one of the things that, did you have a question? I totally forgot.
I said, how did you relate to when?
Oh yeah. Well, so my peers didn't like me. Only the ones that supported me. There were very few. Um, Very few. Most of my peers did not like me. It's very lonely at the top. Plus, I was willing to do literally whatever it takes. Towards my first 3 years in the business, when I wasn't working by repeats and referrals, and I wasn't a relationship salesman, I was a transactional salesman. I was an arrogant, egocentric, typical skater type of guy. It was my deal. So I would take the customer whatever it takes, right? I would go in front of them. I would do all these things, and I've noticed that it's harder to make money this way, right? Because there's a lot of conscious, a lot of bad energy, a lot of bad karma. Karma in this business happens immediately. So you skate somebody, you chop somebody's deal, the same thing happens to you on the next day. So I was like, there has to be a better way. I was, brought up by managers that taught me how to be aggressive. We didn't have up system, and they enjoyed when I skate somebody. They rewarded me for that because they wanted aggressive guys, right? We were on the busiest street until our board was up to 30 cars, right? So I sold 27, I sold 28, never got to 30 because the second guy was at 12, right? So I didn't have competition until one day. One guy showed up. His name is Kerry Washburn. We're still friends till today. A great car salesman, transactional, but he closes people on the spot. He's an amazing salesperson. So he came to our store. His first month, he sells 31 cars, goes on the board. And I've never seen that. He comes in, no customer base, sits outside, way better skater than me. He started skating me. I was like, this is my house. This is my ground. Nobody comes here. And you gotta keep in mind, a lot of salespeople tested their metal with me during that time. I was a top producer, but I wasn't doing it the proper way. So I started competing with this guy. And on the next month, we both sold 29 cars. And in the last day of the month at midnight, I have a subprime customer. He has a subprime customer. His deal gets approved, mine doesn't. So he beat me with 30 again. And I was, but I knew I had him. So on the following month, it was August, and I was expecting my child in September. So that is unbelievable motivation. It was the first month where I sold 40 cars, and I smoked him. He was at like 28, so I had him by 12 cars on the next month, and I was exhausted. I literally worked six. I worked the schedule on the door, right? I was there before hours and I left after hours every single day that month. I lived there, and I was burned out. I made a lot of money, but I realized this is hard. I don't know how long I can keep doing this. And I'm such a competitive guy. I couldn't let him beat me. Like if we take a day off, if I take a day off and I'm somewhere with my kid, somewhere baby in the zoo, and some of my coworkers text me, this guy is here. I'll be like, okay, vacation is over. I gotta go back to the dealership, and super highly competitive. So then few months of competing with him, which was very unhealthy competition. I had to work more hours. He had to work more hours. There was pressure in his home, pressure in my home. His wife had never met me. She hated me because this guy always talked about me, and same thing in my house. So it wasn't very healthy competition. We were both very, very highly competitive guys. We hated each other, right? So at some point I was like, I can't do this anymore. And he was a little bit better than me at shaking things off. So my problem was, if I talk to a client and a client rejects me, then I'm out for at least 3 or 4 hours. Like, I'm gonna beat myself down. I'm gonna be down on myself. Why did I get rejected? This guy shakes it off in 3 seconds and grabs another up. So the professionalism, the experience there helped him to do so. And I was like, okay, so he's good at this. He's got great interpersonal skills. He's good at immediate connection, but I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy building rapport every time and adjusting myself to the client. I'd rather I'd rather want I'd rather do it the opposite way, where the client understands my brand, the client understands what I offer, understands my value, shows up, and they adjust to my process. So I basically sat down one night and I wrote down, I read a phenomenal book, 12 and a half Principles of Selling, a Riddle Red Book of Selling. That was a book that really opened my eyes.
Get him.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It was a game changer.
I had Jeffrey on last month on my show.
Awesome, dude. And I read that book, and that was the first sales book that I read that basically took it from the perspective of the buyer. And I'm like, oh, well, here's what I'm going to do. And I sat down and I wrote down each step of the process, how I would like to be treated if I go and buy a car. And then I reversed it, and that's exactly what I offer my clients. So the transparency, the education, the things that I don't understand. When I bought my first car, the guy said, okay, your APR is going to be 7.9. So I was like, okay, what is APR? He couldn't explain that to me. The salesperson couldn't explain it to me. So I called my cousin. I'm like, what is APR? He goes, well, it's annual percentage rate. I'm like, okay, keep going. He goes, well, this is, you get the principal, then you pay this much and this much. So after 20 minutes later, I thought I knew what APR means, but I still wasn't confident. So if I didn't want that Mustang more than they wanted to sell it to me, if I was a normal buyer, I would go home being embarrassed, not knowing what APR is, and I would tell them I got to think about it. So I realized that it doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're in a different industry, there's industry traits, industry terminology that most people don't understand. Just like everything that engineers talk about, we don't understand everything plumbers talk about. We don't understand everything doctors talk about. So I realized that I have to educate my buyers like I needed to be educated. So I made this my selling style, and I built my process around the remarkable experience. And on that month, that was the first month that I decided to stop taking fresh ups. So my volume, was way lower. So I sold 25 cars this month, but my closing ratio was insane. It was 90% closing ratio. So I dedicated my entire month to reconnect with people who already trusted me, people who loved me, people who bought the product from me. So I called all the people that I've sold in the past 3 years, and I reconnected with them. I used the phenomenal word track from Tom Stucker. He found me at my dealership at that time. He's originally from Barrington here in India. And basically, Tom created all the word tracks. Grant Cardone, all the BDC trainers are using his word tracks. Ninjas, right? Did I get you at a bad time? So I started using this word tracks on trying to get somebody else in the household to buy a car, and it was a game changer for me. Reconnecting with my sold customers, I stopped calling prospects. I stopped taking fresh ups, so I don't have to follow up with them, and I started just working my customer base, and slowly. By the way, that was the #1 month for me so far at that point financially. So I sold 25 cars, but I made more money than selling 44 cars the previous month. So I was like, wow, not only it's easier to get yes, but you also make more money. So I was hooked at this point, and from that moment on, I decided to invest in building, in learning how to build better relationships, in learning how to do better follow-up, in learning how to communicate with all methods of communication available, learning how to provide my clients with more value than what they ask for, learning how to offer them experience they can't get anywhere else, offer my time and equity to them like no other salesperson. I wanted to offer them more efficient process, easier process, and I wanted to position myself as the expert in the marketplace. So I did that by collecting testimonials and referrals. And that's when I started, um, making a big difference with the referrals. I actually, cracked the code to the referrals in a very it wasn't traditionally the way you ask for referrals. So it's a very funny story. But I sold a car to a gentleman who works for the city, and he wanted a truck. His credit wasn't so good, so he wanted to get a Ram 2500, and we ended up getting him financed. So he said, because I'm taking my testimonial, right? He said, "Would you mind sending this testimonial to my coworkers?" And I said, "Yeah, give me their cell phone numbers and their emails, and I'll send the testimonial to them." So boom, I had it. I was like, "Wow, this is so easy. If I do that with each and every client, then I'm gonna multiply my network." So
Mhm.
so that was the main purpose of my existence. When I talked to somebody, it wasn't so much about selling them a car. It wasn't so much about getting the largest commission I can. It was how many people can you introduce me to? How many people can you talk to about me? Who else can you recommend me to? Right? This is the name of the game because we get paid commissions. We're getting paid for work that we've done in the past. Many salespeople get a big commission and they start celebrating. They go to Vegas, they buy a big screen TV. No, this is the work we've done in the past. Big commission is not going to create more opportunities in the future. More opportunities are created through asking for referrals. And 95% of salespeople are asking the same question. They're offering the same incentive, and that's why they're not very successful. But this was my breaking point, and I started working smart instead of hard early on in my career, and I was able to really pick the fruits towards the end of my career. And I was working 4 times less than my peers, and I was earning 4 times more. And nobody ever asked me from my own immediate colleagues, people that were working with me, people that saw my growth from 6 cars a month to 40 cars a month, working only 4 days a week. Nobody ever asked me, how the hell are you doing this? Because they knew I do so much work besides just filling out paperwork and waiting for an up. I was always busy. I was always on the computer sending emails, sending handwritten birthday cards. That was my thing.
Yeah.
Handwritten birthday cards. So I invested my own money in prospecting. I've invested probably $50,000 during my sales career to go to conferences, to meet with gurus. I went to George Gerard's house. I was seeking excellence. So how many salespeople would spend 50 grand of their own money to go to learn something or to invest in the new product? So I was addicted to learning, and the best way to learn is to teach. So
Mhm.
that was my level up. I knew that I was going to teach one day because what I was doing was working, and most people didn't know how to do it. So subconsciously, maybe that's why I collected all these testimonials. So in case somebody says, "Dude, you didn't sell 3,000 cars," now I can say, "Well, go to my YouTube channel. You'll see every single one of them," because I had almost 100% ratio on collecting testimonials and referrals from each one. So selling
You
cars is the best job in the world, man.
one of the things that you said there, and it's truly remarkable. And you said you work smart, not hard. You learned that and grasped that, and you weren't well liked. You had the competition, and one of the things that I like about you so much personally is you lead with your heart. You very much do, and you care. But when you lead with your heart, it is difficult when you can get down and crushed. So when you spend 3 hours with someone and they didn't get approved, special fi, and then the other gentleman got a deal and all that type of stuff that your competitor there, that was hard where you beat up. And for me, it was the same way. I set up an appointment and they didn't show up. I was pissed. And then it's like, don't take it up. No, I'm not taking the up. Leave me alone. And it's like, it's hard to overcome that with it. But one of the great things, and I'm going to circle back to that 1 second, but I'm going to say one more thing before I ask you a question. One of the things that I really feel is important today, and I think it'll always be important, that salespeople, when it comes to training, they want to learn from someone that's really done it and not done it just for 2 years and sold 38 cars and put their chest out and they stopped selling cars back in 1979. They only sold for 2 years and moved into the vendor status, but did it for double digit years and cared and knows how it feels to be skated, knows how it feels to do 3 bell-to-bells in a row. And then you close at 9 o'clock and you get done at 11 because finance took a little bit longer. And then you have to be back at 8:30 the next morning to go through that difficulty and the struggle. You've done that. I've done that as well. There's few trainers out there that can really say that. And that's why you have a great business that you have for your own business. You've been doing since January of 2015, where people love you because you've done it. You're real, which is amazing on it. So the question I want to circle back to is this, and after we do this, I want to talk about your business a little bit more and what you do, is when you went through that difficulty, Velko, and the struggles where you're beating yourself up, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, the Monday morning quarterback, the emotional disconnect we feel when we get rejected in sales that hurts us, for people that work their asses off like you, that care, that legitimately care, really care about your customers. What advice do you have for Facebook Nation of how to overcome that, to have a quick down, quick up, so to speak, which is very easily said, but so freaking hard to do?
Yeah, well, your mentors is a huge part. What you said is very, very important. So the first thing I would say is don't ever take advice from somebody who hasn't done what you're trying to do, who doesn't live where you want to live, or who doesn't meet with the people that you want to meet with. So pick your mentors properly, because my mentors, like in the beginning of my career, they were the wrong mentors. They taught me all the, you know, all the things that were not so ethical, right? So um, after that, I changed my mentors, and I realized what the what the real meaning of having your own business is. That it has to be real. The relationships have to be real. You can't just schmooze people around, because people can read your energy. And then the other two things that I feel that I'm very fortunate and blessed from the Lord with is just my huge desire, my huge competition. That's my biggest strength. I'm a very competitive guy. So desire to be number one, it's not something that anyone could learn or anyone could teach. It's just an internal feeling. One of my favorite owners in the business is Paul Sanson Jr.
I was just going to say that, because you can't teach nice against his desires, Mr. Sansone says. That's amazing you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's exactly what I think, because Paul taught me that. You can't teach nice against his desires. He's our Automax client. I do campaigns for him. That's amazing, because he absolutely says that, Mr. Sanson. That's so awesome.
If you know his uncle, he's actually 80 years old, and he's the top salesman at the Nissan dealership.
I know. Yep.
He has the same illness as me. He walks in the store. If he's not number one, he's having a bad day. So the guy is extremely competitive. I talked to him. He gave me one of the highest compliments. You know, he rejects sales training, and when I talked to him, I shared with him my steps of qualification, and he was like, "Wow, this is so fresh. I'm going to use this." So he gave me the highest compliment ever, because people say you can't teach old dogs new trick. Well, I taught the oldest dog there is, and he was already a top producer. So the other thing is you can't teach people he says, genuinely nice people. You can't teach somebody to be genuinely nice and to love other human beings and to simply care. So I've been blessed with enormous amount of empathy. So to me, it's natural to be in your shoes. I do it because I'm curious, not so much, and also because I care. Not so much because I force it. It just happens automatically in my brain. So my level of empathy is very, very big, and I can relate. I can show the person I'm talking to that I see the same picture. So kind of like a chameleon personality, and I learned that from my dad. When I was younger, me and my dad, when I was a kid, we would walk on the street, and he would say hello to everyone, but he would also engage into a small talk with everyone. So he would see a homeless person, and he would go down on that homeless person's level and be like, "Yeah, when we don't have food, we eat this and that. We just try to get fresh fruits and stuff like that." And then he would talk to the richest man in town, and he would give him some business ideas. And I'm like, wow, this is so awesome, just being able to communicate with everyone. So I have that natural ability to do so, and I don't have any fear of human beings. So I connect very well with very rich people and with very poor people. So with subprime buyers, for example, I never ever ever give up on the deal. So if somebody gives up, it's going to be them, because I know they would not give up. The best way to do it is if you don't give up as well, and then you're going to guarantee yourself a car deal, because these people, they need a car and they know their credit sucks. They're not going to stop. They're going to sign up a deal somewhere for 78% buy here, pay here, and they'll end up buying a car. So if I don't give up, I'll definitely have a car deal. So with subprime people, I never ever gave up. I committed to fixing their credit and all that stuff. And at the same time, I called the rich people on their money. And very few salespeople do that, right? I'd rather help a subprime person who doesn't have the amount of money, and to them, $1,000 is a lot of money. And I'd rather call the rich person and put him in a position of gratitude, so they can pay sticker price and feel good about it, right? Very few salespeople do that. Very few salespeople. Most salespeople take advantage of poor and uneducated people, and they make these big deals on somebody who's going to be repo next month, and they bow down to the rich people, and the rich people are having fun because it's so easy to have that position of leverage, right? So for me, that was always a challenge. That it's kind of like Robin Hood, right? Take money from the rich, pass it on to the poor. And to a broke person, $100 is a lot of money. Full tank of gas is a huge, huge gesture, right? To rich people, it doesn't matter if you take 10 grand off or 20 grand off. You're not going to change their lifestyle. If they spend 30 grand more, it's not going to change their lifestyle. So if it doesn't change your lifestyle, it definitely changes mine if you pay more. So let's go ahead and do that. So, what I would suggest to those folks is, if you're this is the people's business, it's not the restaurant business. This is the people's business, because it's the biggest purchase. Okay, in today's world, millennials don't buy houses. They just saw their parents losing their house and losing all of their savings, so they don't want to buy a house. They rent. So everybody, or the majority of people, will end up buying a car. So this is the biggest purchase. It's not the second biggest like people used to say 30 years ago. It's the biggest purchase. It's the highest commission you can get on item that you will sell, and you get paid the fastest. You sell a car on Wednesday, you get paid on Friday. So that's why it's the greatest gig you could ever have. It's the best job in the world. If you're not a people's person, stay away from the car business. Stay away, because the amount of rejection, the amount of patience you need to have only comes natural to those who love people, to those who understand people's situations. Like, the most common thing with salespeople is, the reason why they don't make calls is because nobody answers the phone. So they take it personally. They say, this person doesn't answer my phone call. That's like the crazy girlfriend that calls you 150 times while you're in the gym. You don't see the call. So it doesn't matter how many times people call. Sometimes people are busy, right? So if you take it personal every time as this is rejection towards me, it's really hard to be a great salesperson, right? Everything in sales is about timing. So that's one of the things that I teach, and one of the things that I preach, and I absolutely do in my business every day. When I follow up with somebody, I always understand the fact that they're busy with something more important, right? So I always apologize, and I always let them know that I understand how busy they are, and it's my responsibility to follow up with them. And that positive approach makes a big difference. People want to do business with you if you do that. Salespeople call somebody, they leave them a voicemail, and they give up. They say, this person doesn't never answer the phone, never called me back. Why would they call you back? There's thousands of you and only one of them, right? So definitely, you must love people in order to be successful in this business. You must care about people. You must have great sense of empathy and sympathy, and you have to definitely have desire, because that's another problem. 50% of the people in this industry are not career people, and they don't have desire to be the best, and that basically kills their potential, because they look at this job as a stepping stone. They look at this job as something temporarily. And where else can you make so much money. Where else can you make so much money without having a license, without having, I mean, some states require a license, but in Illinois, there's no license required. There's no education required. Where else can you make the same amount of money as a doctor who invested 7, 8 years of going to school and then 2 years of internship, and now they have $100,000 in student loans, and now you make the same income, or at least have the same potential. So where else, what other job can you give me that is at least close to selling cars? It's the best job in the world. There's not, especially for somebody who needs a second chance, or somebody who um, you know loves people and have desire for great earnings. It's phenomenal potential for income to sell.
Absolutely. Do you hear his heart, Facebook Nation, how he just appreciates the car industry? That's something that every salesperson needs to grasp that. Because when you struggle, it's because you really don't see it as a privilege to do what to do what we do, and it is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be a trainer, the way that Velko is, the way that I am. It's a privilege to sell cars, and obviously Velko feels that way a lot because he moved here. He wasn't born here. He worked his way up. He was rejected, got his shot, and kept pushing forward with it. That's what we're missing a little bit today as salespeople. Velko, how can people reach out to you? And again, this show's about giving back because technically, are you a competitor of mine? Yes. But you know what? There's room for all of us. And that's why we give back to each other. That's why I love you. I love my boy Alagona. I love, everybody. It just we need to give back to each other, versus have that hatred, the way that you felt, not hatred, but that wrong competition that you had, like with you and that salesperson, where the guy's wife hated you and didn't even know you, type of thing. So how can they reach out to you? I want to give back to you, my friend, because you gave back to us for the show today. How can they reach you for training and knowledge and get more nuggets the way that you spewed a ton tonight?
Yeah, so don't reach out to me if you're a transactional salesperson. I cannot help you out with any tricks or something that you could use to cheat the client, right? So I practice educational selling, and I educate the buyers, and I also practice relationship selling. So my business and my company is all about relationships, right? So I have three superpowers, and one of the superpowers that I possess is I know how to get referrals. So I can get minimum 10 referrals on each delivery. The record goes way above 300-400. There was a gentleman in Atlanta that was able to get 800. So the sky's the limit. So I teach salespeople how to build their book of business, how to build their brand, how to make a massive impact in their community. So if you don't want to get attention and to fight obscurity, you're also not a good fit for me. So I teach referrals. I teach cross promotion. I will teach you how to get free money from the marketplace and pass it on as massive value towards your customers so you can keep your profit. Yeah, I am one of the trainers in the United States that strongly believes in the front end. I know that most dealerships are giving up on that and most trainers are giving up on that. I don't. I believe in the front end. And the other superpower that I have is I teach salespeople how to negotiate and close without giving away discount. I am definitely allergic to discounts, and I get pimples all over my body if I give away discounts. So I teach salespeople how to pass those tests, and when clients ask them for discount, to hold on to their ground. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is to download my free app. It's www.velko.biz. You can also reach out to me via phone. It's a very easy phone number, 847-739-6000. But downloading the app will give you the most access to
Velko, put that in the comments now.
www.velko.biz, B-I-Z. Velko.biz. Download my app, and you'll be able to get a hold of me and follow all the links on social media. I have a daily show at Velko Academy at 8 o'clock in the morning. I try to jump in for 10 minutes and give you sales tips that you could use on the same day.
And that's 8 o'clock Central Time. That is right.
8 o'clock Central Time. Yes.
9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've got some folks that show up every morning, and it's quite fun. But I love the car industry. I love sharing my passion, and I'd love to help you out. If you want to be able to control your paycheck and to control your momentum and control your growth, because there is a method, and as long as you follow the steps, you'll be able to do what I did even faster and for a lot more units and a lot more money. Some of my students, I have at least 3 students that have already passed my records. They're selling more cars and they're making more money. And with social media in today's world, it's easier and faster.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. The business doesn't reward you for time spent in the business. That's prison. Prison, if you stay there for 10 years, they let you go. But in this business, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. So even if you're a green pea, I can help you build your book of business in 6 months and stop taking ups.
Right. Absolutely. That's wonderful stuff there. Velko, thank you so much for taking the time here. I know you have a soccer game that you're competing in, right? You have to be there pretty shortly. It's 8 o'clock your time now. And the game starts in 45 minutes or something? I think you told me. I think you're ready for.
Starts at 9. So I've been doing the 75 hard challenge, and I've been working twice a day. So today, after my first workout, I started to feel cold, started to have this fever. So I took some medicine, and hopefully I can make the game. I'm definitely going there. I'm going to play, and I'm committed to the 75 hard. So you guys should try that.
Velko, you're absolutely amazing. I know you're a little bit under the weather, and I'm not 100% myself, obviously, right now.
Well, not now, but I'm expecting you to join next month or so.
Well, we put it together. Yeah, we definitely had the synergy. Again, I appreciate you so much, my friend. I can't wait to see you again at some event and share the stage with you again. You're truly remarkable, and you absolutely have a great heart, and you care, and your passion, and also your methods. It's a real refreshing change. It is. Salespeople, everybody that follows me, if you appreciate me, follow my friend Velko here, because he'll give you similar philosophies, a similar heart, but some different philosophies where we teach a little bit different, not in disagreeing. We both agree with those philosophies, but we teach differently where, yes, go out there and reach out to him if you want to be all in and get to the next level the way Velko is. So, my man, thank you so much again, my brother. I appreciate it. Enjoy that game. And hopefully we can get in there and kick some goals in there, So I know that's your passion, soccer. So.
I always score.
There you go, my man. Velko, thank you so much, my brother.
Hey, I'm so happy that you're doing well. I'm so happy.
God willing, your lips to God's ears, my friend. I'm thankful to be here. I wasn't sure, and it's funny. I just redid my will last month as well.
Include me in it.
What's that?
Did you include me in your will?
I'm not yet, but I have to change that again. I do. So
I want all of your Rocky stuff. That's it. I just want all of your Rocky stuff. And
how about you come to Philadelphia, and I'll take you to the Art Museum steps, and I'll take you to a nice dinner in Philly. I'll take care of that all in May, and we'll show you real South Philly. How about that?
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, you let me know when you want to come, and we'll set it up. And we'll also set it up when you come. We'll get you on the Recruiter podcast with Craig, Ernie, and Joe, so you can be there for that as well. So we'll get that set up, and you can be on the Recruiter podcast live, which is about 10 minutes from Philly in Ben Salem, PA.
I love Craig. I think Craig is one of the classiest guys in our industry. I've learned so much from him. He's one of my favorite people in the industry. Just his demeanor, he's so professional and always on point. Craig is one of the best guys to know in our industry.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and I'm not saying that because I represent him. I'm saying it because it's the truth. He's helped me.
He's a great mentor.
He really has. With it, that means a lot. It does. He's a good man, and I know he'd love to have you as a guest on the Recruiter podcast. And he even told me before I met you, he said, you're going to love Velko, Anthony, because he has a similar heart that you do. He told me, and he did that, and you absolutely do. So,
Well,
all right, before I start shedding tears here, let's hop off. You go enjoy your game. So, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. Love you so much. Enjoy that game and be well, my friend.
Love you too. Go to Velko Academy and Professional Problem Solver.
Yes, there you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. There you have it, Facebook Nation. Another episode complete there. At the hire him dead or kill me after you got him. Well, I mean, Velko's just an amazing person, isn't he? I mean, just the knowledge, the experience. He definitely brings a different type of mindset. Not being from this country, and the competition's there, the drive's there, but he cares and he values what he does, and that's what I'm going to leave you guys with tonight. Do you really value what you do? Are you willing to really go all in with that and have the value and appreciation for what you do? Because we don't know how long we have on this earth. We don't. We don't. And are you willing to do that? Are you willing to just really take the bull by the horns and give back and show people that you care and have a true passion and love for what you do? Because that's what's important. It really, really is. I want to hit the share button, please, on this, because Velko gives some wonderful knowledge there. He's a great person. Follow him. All my followers out there, and I appreciate you to follow Velko too. He'll help you in different ways. So I'm going to hop off here. So thank you so much again for everybody. I appreciate all of you so much for taking the time to watch the show and share the show. And again, thank you for teaching me these past couple of days that the guy that lives in hotels all the time is not alone. I really felt your love out here in Boise, Idaho, and I really appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. So thank you guys. One step at a time, one customer at a time, one prospective new hire at a time. We're going to change the perception of the car industry. And we're going to do it by working together and having synergy, as the total is greater than the sum of its individual parts. As always, Facebook Nation, I will talk to you soon. Go